Well, welcome back, everybody, to a truly special milestone moment in this Tech Whispers podcast series. And I do not say that lightly. And I'm going to tell you, this episode is special for three reasons. First, a truly exceptional guest. You're going to get to meet and know her shortly. Second, her mystery questioners, the caliber of these people, unbelievable. We've got board members, CEOs, CIOs, trusted peers, all people who've been in the trenches, doing hard work. They know what amazing leadership looks like. As many of you know, we started this journey back in 2021, and the podcast was originally called CIO Whispers, but it didn't take long for something to become clear. The CIO role was expanding, their remit was growing, the expectations were changing in real time. So after just 11 episodes, we rebranded to Tech Whispers, not as a cosmetic change, but as a reflection of what was happening across our profession at that time. CIOs were no longer being asked to simply run IT. They were being asked to orchestrate change, influence growth, manage risk, shape culture, take on P&Ls, and just lead across the enterprise overall. One of the things I'm most proud of along the way is our Tech for Good initiative. Over these past few years, our firm has committed more than $500,000 to support now 40 STEM nonprofits, something I'm incredibly proud of. Because we know leadership is not just about scale and success, it's about impact, it's about providing access. It's a reminder of the ripple effect, how a single intentional action can create outcomes far beyond what you could ever predict. I'm going to be totally blunt. Never anticipated how big and impactful this would be when we started the Tech for Good initiative. And none of this happens without trust. Trust from the 100 remarkable guests who are willing to show up, open up, let me tell their stories. Trust from you all, our very passionate audience that's always hungry to learn, to grow, to lift others. Your encouragement, you will never know how it's been amazing for me. And so thank you for helping us reach this huge milestone. And with that, let's get into today's episode. So my guest today embodies everything this podcast has become. Denise Russell Fleming is the Chief Information Officer, EVP of Technology and Global Services at BD, fully known as the Becton Dickinson & Company. It's a Fortune 250, a global medtech innovator with a bold mission of advancing the world of health. Denise is a member of BD's executive leadership team, and she's widely recognized as a business and technology transformer. Not someone who navigates change from the sidelines, but someone who orchestrates change at enterprise scale. That's why she's so often tapped to lead the most complex, cross-company, high-stakes initiatives where clarity can be scarce, trade-offs are real, and execution matters. But what truly sets Denise apart isn't just the breadth of her experience across telecom, aerospace, defense, and now healthcare, or even her board service and industry recognition. It's the trust she has earned along the way. And you can see that trust reflected in the people who want to be part of this conversation. More on that in a minute. As I was preparing for this episode, again, our 100, I realized something very powerful. If this episode was going to set the tone for the next 100, then it had to start with someone who has seen Denise lead up close, under real pressure, and at scale. Someone who didn't just observe her leadership, but helped shape it. So with that, there is no better way to open up this milestone episode than with our very first mystery questioner. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Hey, Dan, thanks again for letting me be a part of your podcast once again. It's exciting to be both part of number 1 and number 100, and it's even more exciting to celebrate Denise Fleming. Denise is an excellent leader that I had the great opportunity to spend a lot of time with. She was introduced by another CIO friend that maybe we'll talk about another day. And my question is really simply this. With so much going on with one's day job and so much opportunity to get involved in other activities that help from a personal development perspective, from a networking, growth perspective, how, Denise, do you balance it all out? How do you stay focused on getting your core job done and also participate in the community and join other organizations and be a part of other things that are important to things to you as an individual. Congratulations, Denise, on being a part of Podcast 100. And I look forward to talking to you both soon.
Well, I definitely know who that is. It's Ted Colbert.
Indeed.
And, it's interesting that Ted would ask me the question of how I balance because I could very easily ask him the same question. But Ted Colbert made a very unique transition from CIO to CEO and is a leader in the boardroom, the nonprofit sector. And, I definitely think that one of the ways that I'm able to find that balance is because I've had a lot of great models like Ted along the way. And what I observed with him and others is the value of being present where you are, whether it's your day job, your volunteer work, your board service, or your family. And, sometimes it might look like a lot of things that are not connected that are going on. But, really for me, it's largely aligned to how I can ensure that I'm staying on top of the changes that are happening in the world around me and really helping my leadership team to be able to do the same thing. And, plus I'm a really naturally curious person and I get fueled from learning and growing and gaining different perspectives. So I'm involved in things that help me to stay abreast of what's happening in the tech space. I invest my time in places where I feel like I can contribute and give back, and that fuels me personally. And I also learned from Ted is you should always be on the hunt for good talent. And the organizations that I'm involved in help me with that, like other people have done for me, like you referenced. And, that engagement exposes me to other great leaders that I might have the opportunity to work with, bring on my team to help to support our mission and help to support their growth too. And I may be able to learn from them in the future.
Incredible. Incredible. Ted, thank you so much. And yeah, he's just got so much going on today in this chapter of his journey. And he was so excited to do this for you, Denise. And I don't think I ever told you the story, but when right before Ted introduced me to you back in your Boeing days, he said to me, he's like, I don't know how long I can keep her here because she is going to be a global CIO someday very soon. And so you proved him out very well. But yeah, Ted's one of the legends and just one of the most special people out there. So
Totally agree.
yeah. We've got some other legends for you coming up here. You're in a really special circle of people, but I think it'd be helpful, Denise, for you to help unpack the remit, the hats you wear. You've got some dual responsibilities, and I'd be curious as you describe these, what kind of benefits do the company get by having one executive with these two big roles together?
Well, the way I define my role then actually spans into three key areas. The first is the IT role, where the team and I are responsible for all of the digital solutions across the company that really help to fuel the enterprise. And so that would include everything from the legacy technology like ERPs and cloud as the foundation that it sits on, and then the management of our data and our enterprise AI journey. The second piece is cybersecurity and digital risks to be able to help to secure all those digital solutions and capabilities. And then the third is global business services. And that is some of our end-to-end enterprise processes like quote to cash and source to pay, hire to retire. And I'm leading our journey to help leverage lean principles to streamline and harmonize those processes globally. And so the fusion between the tech and those business processes, for me really is what makes the fusion between all three of these different components of my role make sense. Because if you think about it, business process is really the foundation. And, efficiency in that space can be amplified by applying technology once it's an efficient process. And then, you leverage that to be able to drive the business results and have to ensure that that is secured, particularly because of the business that we're in, so that we help to really make sure we're protecting our customers and our patients. And so the benefit of all these three being together in holistic role is that, we don't get overly enamored with the technology. It's about, how do we really tie this back to what allows us to best serve our customers and patients And, it's really an honor to work for a company that is so critical to healthcare and is focused on advancing the world of health and everything that we do. And so the mission is really a huge motivator for me and for my team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you took us there because I know the company is so customer back, patient back, driven, and you are too. So it's a good fit. And in addition to those three roles, you've got your board work that you're doing, your outside volunteer work, incredible remit. So this next mystery questioner is going to get you talking about that board experience. So let's listen into another of our great legends.
Denise, it's an honor to participate in your leadership journey. My question: how has serving on a public company board influenced your approach to leadership?
You are correct. That is definitely a legend, Larry Quinlan. And,
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of serving on a nonprofit board with Larry and to be mentored by Larry, both in the CIO journey as well as the board journey. So, when I think about, his question, I think for me, the bottom line is that having the opportunity to sit on both sides of the boardroom table has given me a richer strategic perspective and has really better equipped me to perform my responsibilities at BD as an executive. And when I look back over the past years of my journey, strategy, managing risk, governance, cyber, financial oversight, all those things have really prepared me for being able to serve on a corporate board and, bring those skills to the table to be able to act in the best interests of our shareholders. And in turn, as I've continued to learn and grow as a board member, those insights have really helped me to be a better operator with regards to managing risk in my day job and some of the high stakes decisions that have to be made through leading with influence. And, serving on the board has really given me perspective to be able to bring back to BD in terms of looking across different industries. And I think in today's environment, as dynamic as it is, that is extremely helpful. And I also have the pleasure of serving with some really incredible leaders on the board and, being able to collaborate with them and, operating to be able to act in the best interests of the company. All those things come back together and really just give me a different lens to be able to help navigate the complex issues in both the roles.
Yeah, incredible. Larry Quinlan, thank you so much. I mean, he had a huge job for all those years, right? Global CIO for Deloitte and thousands of people around the world. He had more logged miles on the plane than anybody, I think, for that period of time. And he's gone on to do board work himself. I think several boards like ServiceNow and UBS and others. And so just so inspirational still. And one of his big things he's taught me is the idea of lift as you climb, right? And just something he did so well, you do so well. And um, one of your leadership superpowers, Denise, is your ability to elevate your people to that point, right? And your organization overall. So I have another mystery question I want to pull in right now. It's going to help us unpack this in greater detail from, his real world experience with you. So listen, and you're going to know who this is right away.
What is your most important strategy to ensure that IT is not simply a business utility, but a business discriminator for growth?
All right, Michael Bennett. Thank you, Michael, for the question. And we actually referenced Michael earlier. Ted did, as the person that had introduced me to him. And Michael Bennett was my boss when I was at BAE Systems. And so a great CIO leader that I've learned a great deal from. And so to his question, the number one thing that I think we have to do with all our technology work is to make sure it's clear how everything ties back to the corporate strategy and delivering value. And, as we outline our annual cybersecurity IT GBS strategy, we always start with the enterprise level strategy. And, based on what those key performance indicators are, look at the different initiatives and capabilities that we can bring to bear to be able to help to support those enterprise objectives. And, it's in order for us to best understand how to do this, it's, critical that you have a seat at the table. And we've been fortunate enough to earn that across my peers in the C-suite, and that, we ensure that whatever line of business or function, that we really understand the challenges and the pain points that we're solving for, so that we can bring the functional expertise to the table and the technology so that we can co-create to be able to solve those business problems together. And, I'll tell you that early in my career, I was brought in to lead a transformation, and I didn't do enough due diligence up front, really understanding the uniqueness of the different orgs. And, so at first, the proposals that I was making were not well adopted. And I had to learn the lesson that sometimes you have to take a little bit more of time up front, doing a really deep understanding of the motivators, understand the culture, who are the key influencers, and really work jointly to set objectives to have a co-sponsor. And, that was a lesson that I learned and have taken with me around working to jointly, get that co-sponsorship. And then together we can work on that investment and execution together.
Denise, as you're answering Michael's question, I just think about these people that are in our world, and what a special community we have, right? And you in particular, just so amazing. I don't, people don't realize just how special these folks are. So, but you do, and
I do.
I know you appreciate them. And I want to kind of go a little deeper into Michael's question, and specifically, I'd like to get into how you're putting the tech into med tech. How you're leveraging data and AI to differentiate BD, to be that proven innovator, to be that impactor for customers, patients. And, I might preface all this by saying, everyone calls themselves a fintech today, fintech, insurtech, health tech, ed tech, right? And frankly, when you look under the covers for a lot of these, it's a lot of lipstick on the pig, right? But you're doing it here. So talk about BD as a true med tech.
Yeah. And so, we just recently had our announcement around going to a pure play med tech company. And so, we're focused on, how do we help to improve patient outcomes. And, a lot of that work that my peers in the R&D team do leverage different technologies like AI to be able to help to, anticipate those patient needs to ensure that we get the best patient outcomes. From an enterprise perspective, the work that my team and I do is, and I'll just focus on AI to, be able to illustrate the answer to your question. And we think about it from three perspectives. And so AI is a companion for our associates to be able to help them leverage that capability to free up time for some of the administrative tasks that they focus on in their day-to-day work. The second is a process enabler to really help them simplify and improve the quality of the processes through AI and digitalization. And then the third is, how do we use AI as an agent to be able to help rethink the way that we work? And, so for MedTech, there's a lot of opportunity across the value chain to be able to, advance the overall experience in the patient life cycle, to further patient outcomes and make a better customer experience. And so within the work that my team does in GBS is one example of, how we're leveraging AI to be able to reduce our time to serve, to improve first-time quality with our customer interactions, and give them a better experience, that is more like the consumer experience that they might have in their day-to-day lives, and bring that into this B2B experience that we you have with them.
Incredible. Yeah, that's so exciting, and just so valuable what you're doing there for the industry, the profession, your patients. The last episode, we featured Mojgan Lefebvre from Travelers, right? Your peer at Travelers. And, it was interesting to hear about those early experiences that shaped the person, the leader she is today. And so we've got another mystery questioner coming. I think it's going to help us understand maybe who who helped shape you into this amazing person you are today. So I think you can know who this is. So check it out.
Denise, you know that I am super proud of you and a fan of yours, always cheering for you in the background and from in the front, because we know that these jobs are not for the faint of heart. And to that end, my question for you is, I tend to think that it is the early experiences in our life and or people who help to shape, mold us, and prepare us for the things that we are able to do today. Who was it from your life that helped to prepare you, shape, mold you to be able to experience and thrive in your leadership role today?
Always good to hear from Miss Danny Brown.
It sure is. Yeah. Thank you, Danny.
Yes, Danny, thank you for the question. And I'm a fan of yours as well. I've had a lot of leaders that I have worked with, and we've talked to a few of them in this podcast today. And, they've definitely helped to shape me as a professional. But without a doubt, it really goes back to my roots and my parents. And, from the early years, no matter what I told them that I aspired to do, from wanting to be like Sue Simmons on TV in New York, a news reporter, to, having a job that would allow me to travel all over the world like my aunt did. Or, I wanted to be a doctor, then finally got to the engineering side of things. But they encouraged me and told me that it was possible. And they fueled my every dream by exposing me to things, news articles, or people that would fuel my interest. And they never made me feel for any reason that I could not accomplish what it was that I'd set my mind to. And, that was further reinforced by people in our family, friends that were in our circle, aunts, uncles, church friends, and that would just reinforce my dreams. So, I was just enveloped as a little girl with all this positive reinforcement and, just made me feel like invincible. So no matter what came my way as went through my journey, being able to go back to having that positive environment, parents who really groomed me to be a problem solver. So as a curious kid, if I asked questions, they didn't just answer my question. I asked one day, like, how does electricity work? And my dad took me to the hardware store. And before I knew it, we were building a circuit. So I knew how electricity worked. So my village was really the source that shaped me. And those voices of affirmation really, helped to fuel me when times get tough. And those little elements of doubt creep in. I have that to fall back on.
Yeah. Such great lessons for us as parents, grandparents, bosses, leaders, right? Those are just such great traits of encouragement. And thank you again, Danny. Danny's the CIO EVP at Whirlpool. I should mention she was our guest on episode 4. Larry Quinlan was episode 7. And of course, Ted was number 1. So we're just getting, it's funny how we're all in this, all coming together here. And, one of your many superpowers is going to be uncovered through this next question. And, I think maybe comes under the banner of the balancing act, right? The tricky balancing act, like so much of what you do as an executive, right, is that balancing act. So check out this question and we'll have some fun with it when you come back.
One of the things I truly admire about you is in the face of change and adversity and new opportunity, you remain absolutely unflappable. Whether you're juggling cyber or GBS or new business unit demand and strategies or digital or commercial opportunities, you always maintain a really strong, calm, forward, positive demeanor, no matter what the adversity or challenges that face you. And my question to you is, how do you do it? How do you actually balance all that and maintain the smile on a daily basis?
Oh, great question, Hermes. That was Hermes Vallejo, who's on my team, and we've worked together for the past 3 years or so since I've been at BD. And, to answer his question, I really just try to keep things in perspective. After working for multiple companies over a few decades, you get to come to realize that if you keep a calm head, things will usually work themselves out. Plus, you can't really be focused when you're frazzled. And when I was, in telecom, supporting government customers, I was actually there during both Hurricane Katrina and 9/11, and had to be a part of the team that was restoring service when the stakes were really high. And you learn the value of temperament in those types of environments, to be able to keep a calm head, surround yourself with people who know how to solve problems and bring the right attitude. And with that, there's going to be a solution. And so plus, I just believe nobody wants to follow somebody who's running around with their hair on fire. So if you keep a calm head, that'll help you think more clearly. And I just firmly believe that you should prioritize and control what you can control. And in certain environments, you can't. And so you have to embrace that concept, that will allow you to stay focused, not get distracted, by the things that might come at you.
Hermes, thanks so much. You're always talking about your people, Denise. You're always pushing credit onto your people. I know Hermes and your folks are just so good. Like you say, you're always on the hunt for talent. You're always looking at, for those great leaders and growing leaders. So appreciate him, and he's got a big job there. A fun fact, I want to call out somebody else on your team. Allison Jackson was a rock star partner in helping me orchestrate this. I want to give her a shout out. Also want to share a fun fact. She and Hermes went to high school together. So how cool is that? How cool is that, right?
Yeah, I found that out one day. We were out getting a bite to eat, and I was like, the world is a very small place. But
Very
she's
small.
absolutely a rock star.
Eat your heart out, Kevin Bacon. It's no longer 6 degrees, right? We're maybe 1 or 2 separated. So, no, that's good. As Hermes says, great leaders today have to be unflappable, and they've also got to lead with courage, right? So, another amazing mystery question, going to help us learn how you manage through those challenging moments. We all know it's easy managing through the easy times, right? But those challenging times you've referred to a couple of times, but let's listen to this next mystery question.
Denise, I have had the honor and pleasure of watching you and learning from you on how to bring that fearless entrepreneurial mindset to the tech table in environments where the stakes are high, the noise is constant, and the capital is finite. Can you take us through a moment where you had to cut through competing priorities, challenge prevailing assumptions, and push for an investment you knew would deliver the highest return, even when the choice wasn't popular? What did you anchor yourself on to make that call, and how did you bring others with you?
I want to just jump in, Denise, because I just can't wait, because guest number 32, she's the CIO for the NACD, which everyone knows, the National Association of Corporate Directors. And I love this question. So thank you. Who is this?
Rona Butt.
Oh my gosh. Is she cool
Yes.
or what?
She is absolutely cool. And we go back a couple companies ago, and she has become a great, great friend. And so, Rona, to answer your question, as a CIO, the one thing that I've learned over time is that there's never enough money to meet all the demands of all the people who want you to bring technology to the table to solve problems. And, the real key to this is to have a high degree of engagement, so that you can align on what the ultimate goals are that allow you to be able to prioritize. And, I can say across each of the companies that I work for, I've had to apply this approach. And the more people that are involved in the process in developing the priorities, they feel like it's not just something that's being done to them, that they are working together to decide what the future will look like and where we'll make those investments. And not everybody will walk away with exactly what they wanted, but by bringing everyone along, you can really have them understand the logic and agree on the fundamental principles of how the decisions were made. And, I just, believe in the proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And the same is true when it comes to securing capital. I always try to find that business partner so that we can, go to the table together and state, why is this a good thing for the company from a business or functional perspective, how will this advance our technology journey? And though bringing the two of us together is usually a very powerful story. And, whenever there's significant dollars involved in the investment, I just, try to make sure that we do that together to amplify the why for the company, our customers, and, just how is that going to impact the bottom line.
Yeah, outstanding. Rona, thank you again, and love what you're doing there, and overall. Um, Another one of your friends. I don't want to make. Well, I want to have some fun here because she used a very technical term. You might have to, you might have to decipher it for us. So she used the term wahoo, and I looked it up. It's a type of a bush or a type of a fish or some. It's like exuberance. I don't know, but given that context, um, check this out. I love her question because this is really important today. But then maybe tell us what a fellow Wahoo is while we're at it. Okay? You probably know who this is now.
Absolutely.
Hey, Denise, my fellow Wahoo. I can't wait to hear your episode on Tech Whisperers. You have had an incredibly diverse career from your background, from P&L responsibilities and the like. And so I'd be curious to hear your point of view on what capabilities you see consistently missing in high potential technology leaders, and how can someone build them, especially earlier than when they need them as a leader?
Well,
Wow.
Wahoo Wah Sabina. And Dan, to answer your question, a Wahoo is a fish. And for those of us who graduated from UVA, that is a part of our song after a touchdown. So, Wahoo
Oh,
Wah, Wahoo Wah, Virginia, for UVA.
wow. Very cool.
Yeah. So Sabina, thank you so much for the question. Sabina is the CIO at Abbott. And, as I came into the med tech industry, she welcomed me with open arms and connected me in with the rest of the network of CIOs, which was extremely helpful as I started on this journey. So one thing that I would say to her question in terms of, the early career and, having a broad base of experiences to give you a good solid foundation. I see many early career folks that they want to just take that vertical path. But it will give you a lot more options in the future and give you context to be able to be a systems thinker. And that I think is really critical, especially in the complex environment that we operate in, to really be able to see things more holistically. And I wish I could say that in the earlier part of my career, when I transitioned from product management to customer care to P&L role, that all of that was heavily calculated, but it was not. But I'm an engineer by training, and started out in product management, which opened my eyes to the skill gap that I had from a business side, like understanding finance and operations, which is what led me to get my MBA. And, following that, I was in a leadership development program, and we rotated roles every year or so, which then, also gave me an opportunity to see various parts of the company through the lens of marketing, technology, and customer support. And I think early in your career is really the time to explore different things like that. Because once you reach certain management levels, being able to take those big swings of change and the types of role that you do are very difficult. And, for me, just being able to get that exposure and experience was extremely helpful. And also gave me a lot of credibility coming into a CIO role when I'm engaging with business leaders because, having carried a P&L when I was, at Sprint, when I was in telecom, I understand, what it takes to serve customers and generate a profit and build differentiated products. And that mindset helps me to be able to come to the table with my business partners with the right, approach. And, many early career folks may, want to bypass that horizontal, but, I think it's really critical, especially if you aspire to get to those C-suite levels, to be able to have that perspective. And I'll just add, to her question, three things that I think also are table stakes for early career. And I'll say it's the three C's: communication, collaboration, and curiosity. So, can you communicate really well to be able to tell a story so that people can really understand you, to collaborate. So to be somebody that people actually want to work with. Work gets done through people. And then the last one is be curious and, just continue on that learning journey. If you think about, all of the technology transitions and, how fast things like AI are moving, you have to continue to be curious and, continue to keep your skills sharp. And that's one really important factor.
That's just pure gold, and gosh, I think those table stakes probably resonate up and down the whole ladder, doesn't it? In terms of the muscle for today and the future. And thank you so much, Sabina. Episode 11 guest. So it's just so funny how everyone's coming back together for shine the light on Denise here. And I remember meeting Sabina the first time. Okay, it was like 15 years ago. She was a director at the time. Okay. I was at the Guggenheim leading a panel of CIOs. I met probably 50, 60 amazing people that night, all CIOs, right? And someone brought Sabina as a guest. And I remember leaving that night. And the only thing I remember about that evening, which was amazing, the Guggenheim, right, was meeting Sabina. And I'm like, she is going to be a rock star CIO someday. And so I love when people prove me right. It doesn't happen very often, but she's gone off, like you say, Albert. And so thank you, Sabina. So I want to pull in one of your amazing leadership colleagues from BD, someone that you're in the trenches with, and just shine the light on one of the trademarks of great leaders through his lens. So check this out.
The book Leadership Pipeline speaks to the importance of C-suite executives being purposeful about how they build their pipeline from the front line all the way to N-2. What are some of the keys to success you found in building a very strong leadership pipeline?
Thanks for the question, Tony. That was Tony Azell, who leads sales for North America and marketing at BD. And he has been an incredible partner on my whole BD journey. Us working really closely together to be able to make sure all the commercial capabilities that our team needs to be able to go to market, that they have them and right into fingertips digitally. So we had a great partnership working together. And, to his question, for me, it's really important to understand, what people's aspirations are for their career and establish an open dialogue with them that's, honest on areas where they're strong and where there are opportunities for development for them to be able to achieve their goals. And, this is really key to identify, early, and particularly for those potential leaders have the ability to ascend. And then really partnering with them to build a plan to be able to ready them for future opportunities. And, that really comes with investing in both the formal training and the practical application, like stretch assignments to make sure that they have the opportunity to build new muscle and, that will make them a stronger leader. And, sometimes people think of it as taking a risk when somebody might not have all the right ingredients or check the right boxes. But, I view it as, really just making sure that you are preparing that next generation of leadership and, put in some faith in people. Like, I've been fortunate enough to have people do for me. And, then helping to give them the right support to navigate the leadership transitions, as their, value morphs from, knowing what they know to how they can coach and teach people to know more, and then how they can inspire people to do things they might not have thought was possible. And then you get to the stage of being able to set the vision. And all along those transition journeys, just making sure that they, have the right support to be able to navigate those transitions, is really important. And having a leadership team around you that is consciously making those decisions to be able to build that pipeline. So, I think that really gets back to Tony's questions about the leadership pipeline and, what I found has worked to help to build that.
Yeah, excellent question, Tony, and shine the light on something really important. And I know a lot of people who are the byproducts of the Denise pipeline coaching that you talked about. In fact, I've got one right now to share with you. Who's gonna prove all this out? And you're going to laugh when I tell you this fun fact. So, Denise, I could have done an entire podcast with all the mystery questions I got from this guest. He had so many things he wanted to pose to you, and I had to like painstakingly figure out which one I was going to use. So you're going to crack up when you hear his voice. So because you're going to know, right? You're going to know exactly who this is and why he did that. So listen in.
Denise, I've known you for many years. I see your career has taken you to the new heights and your leadership superpowers are showing up. You've been named as F200 CIO in 2025, top 100 executive women in tech to watch in 2025, Savoy 2024 most influential director, and many more. You made a rare set of transitions from telecom to aerospace and defense, and then to another A&D giant, and later into healthcare, medtech at Becton Dickinson, where you are now. Each time, stepping into enterprise scale transformation, what's the leadership trait or operating principle you learned on most to earn trust fast and deliver impact in new industry? And how did you adopt your approach without losing your authentic leadership style?
Well, thank you for the question, Barat. Always good to hear your voice. And that was Barat Amin. And he and I worked together when I first joined BAE Systems years ago. And he was on my team. And then he went on to become a CIO at Huntington Ingalls. And so always great to hear from him. And a really good question. So when I think about the transitions that I made, consistent for me. And it took me a while to kind of connect the dots, but a lot of the companies all have one thing in common. It's the regulated nature of the industry. And that each have a really critical mission in society. And, for me, those missions create a sense of responsibility around the role that I have as a leader to deliver and drive innovation and mitigate risk. And, those were three constants that, as I move from company to company, that it's important to understand that value delivery looked a little bit different at each company. And you had to really take the time to understand that company and, how you can contribute to the goals around innovation and ensuring that we, mitigate whatever risks might come through and then bring value to the table. And once I've understood what that looked like at each of the different companies, you can find that common ground with your peer group and then be able to demonstrate my understanding of that, which helps to build trust within the organization because they don't necessarily know me. But if they understand my intentions are coming from a good place to act in the best interest of the company and our customers, then it's easy to find those places of alignment and build trust. And then to take it a step further to figure out how we could partner together to be able to make their goals of reality and the role that my team can play in helping to make that happen. So in the end, work gets done through people. So I always just try to seek out ways to get to know people on a personal level and how we can support one another. And, that approach just really aligns with who I am. I always, want to make a difference. And the engineer in me is always looking to figure out how to solve the problem or have the better design and, just be able to make things better. And, that just, aligns with me and my leadership ethos.
Fantastic, Bharat. Thank you so much. He's gone on now doing some really interesting board work. And Bharat, I'm only using one of your questions, but please know that your other questions really help with context and helping to shape the podcast. So all very, very helpful. And well, Denise, I've got one last mystery questioner. Another good friend, another industry colleague, a master communicator, known for his 6-word stories. That might have just given it away. And he's done something really interesting. He came up with a 2-word title for you. So let's see how he did. So let's listen into our final questioner.
Denise, you approach every problem with style and grace, but with a sense of determination to deliver amazing, effective outcomes. In fact, I've come to determine this the velvet hammer. So, Denise, describe to this audience, how do you approach problem solving with the velvet hammer?
That is so awesome.
Well, thanks, Earl. I now have a new title that is Earl Newsom. And he and I have worked together in a number of different ways over the years. I think we first started working together on a nonprofit board with Executive Leadership Council. And then we were co founders at TechPack with a number of CIOs and right during the pandemic. And we're seeking out ways to be able to help to bring technology and exposure to the tech field to people who might not otherwise get exposed to it. So good to hear from you, Earl, and thank you for the question. Um, so I'm a planner by nature, Dan, and so I always think in terms of what's the goal and identify the steps that have to be taken to achieve it, and also what obstacles might get in the way along the way, and try to figure out how I will avoid them. um, and then most importantly, who needs to be involved along the way to be able to make it work, which then puts me on a mission to recruit who will be needed to be able to hit that goal. And so maybe this is where my native New Yorker comes in, that I could be pretty direct sometimes in communication style, but having lived a good time in the South and being married to a Southerner, there's a degree of Southern charm that gets melded into that. So maybe that's where his term comes from. But, I never want to leave people in a place of being wounded after a conversation. So I always think about, how to ensure that truth is the foundation. But how do we make sure we can, continue to go forward on the path together? So maybe that's where the analogy comes from. And thanks for the new title, Earl.
So good. Yeah, Earl is just such an interesting human and just very thoughtful. And he was my guest on episode 71, so not long ago, and love his story. Well, I think this would be a good time for us, Denise, to kind of pivot to one of my other favorite features of the podcast, our Tech for Good scholarship program, right? And I mentioned in the introduction notes that to date, thanks to my company, we've donated over $500,000 in scholarships to about 40 STEM nonprofits, and they have an opportunity to enroll people into our 9-month Tech LX leadership program. It's a game changer, right, for these folks and upcoming leaders. So you're involved with so many different organizations, and you're so generous with your time. But is there a nonprofit that you'd like to announce today as a gift for the scholarship?
There definitely is. And I have already mentioned it, Tech Pack. And, I mentioned that, back in 2020 during COVID, I had the honor of being one of the founder members of Tech Pack with a number of incredible CIOs and tech leaders. And although I'm not a part of the board today, this is still an organization that I truly believe in, of really working to, close the digital divide and be able to expose tech careers to people, to really help to advance our industry and bring in some great talent. So I'm excited to be able to have that scholarship go to TechPack.
That is special. Multi-time recipient because of the great work they're doing. And I kind of thought you were going to go there. That's why I put the question after Earl's question. So that's perfect. Who are your other co-founders when you and Earl and the team launched TechPack?
So, yeah, back in 2020, I had the opportunity to help to co-found TechPack with a number of tech leaders and CIOs. And, it really was focused on how do we help to close the digital divide and really expose a new generation of leaders to be able to come into the tech industry. And, while I'm no longer on the board, it's an organization that I still truly believe in. And so I'm really excited to recognize TechPack for the scholarship.
Yeah, fantastic. Denise, I want to put a big bow on this special episode, and it's I had really high expectations, and it's surpassed them all. So thank you, and the common theme, and I kind of mentioned it in my introduction, um, it's the whole power of the ripple effect, right? It's like how you drive I think about your career, how you bend that pebble in the water so many times. You've created those ripples that starts small, right? Like it's like our tech for good. It starts small, and all of a sudden you wake up as $500,000 of commitments, right? So I just wanted you to kind of reflect on those ripple effect moments. What perspectives, words of wisdom, can you leave our listeners with today that um, to think about those ripple effects that we all create?
Well, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, Dan, and for bringing so many of my friends and mentors to this conversation. It's really, truly humbling. But, I think in that vein, sometimes it's really difficult to know the shadow that you cast. And one of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou of people may not remember what you said or what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And I know that a lot of aspirations that I have for myself were shaped by the exposure that I had to many great leaders before me who made me feel like I could take on any challenge. And I hope that, I've been able to create a positive impact in my interaction with people along my journey so that many others that, come into this industry behind me and will also have the ability to be able to deliver value. And I'm excited to be able to continue doing that, to be able to do that with many people and continue to deliver that value together.
Well, Denise, that was just monster. Thank you once again. Always deliver the A game. And thanks for delivering on every big, bold promise I had hoped for this 100th episode of the Tech Whispers podcast. Your leadership story, your candor, and the ripples you continue to create make this milestone just truly special. So thank you for that. I also want to thank our incredible mystery questioners. The caliber of leaders who showed up for this conversation says everything about the trust, the respect, the community that Denise has built over the course of her career. Several of those voices I've mentioned, you can continue to learn from. Go back and listen to their episodes. And then some of them, actually, I use some of their second questions and the CIO.com article that will launch next week, which is going to unpack more of Denise's superpowers and those moments that shaped her and those lessons that translate so well beyond this conversation. So check that out for sure. So before we close, there's one more thank you I want to share. And from day one, my biggest fan of this podcast, my coach, has been my son, Kelly Roberts. And just want to give him a special shout out. He's been a constant source of encouragement, of perspective. I still remember we were on a road trip together. We do these hiking trips, and we actually listened to Ted Colbert's episode before it was published. He was helping me proof it, and I didn't know what I was doing back then. And he said to me, he said, "Hey, that was awesome. I learned a lot, and just know you'll get better. And remember, Joe Rogan's 100th podcast was better than his first. So Kelly, I hope this episode does that coaching justice. So to our listeners, thank you for trusting me. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for having that curiosity, that drive to learn from the best leaders out there. And just thanks so much to Denise for sharing her leadership brilliance. Until next time, as we tackle number 101, be well.